Let's now enthusiastically anonymity. That's right. Let's welcome our speaker tonight, Nan.
Hi, my name is Nan, and I'm an alcoholic. So I always start out with my home group. So I've been sober for 7 years, 2 months, and 18 days. So I always say my sobriety date is September 1st, 2014, and I'm super grateful to be here today and sober enough to come here and speak to you guys. You guys are a great looking group. It's nice. You're big. I remember I used to speak at the Rarely group on my birthdays. Kirk used to invite me, and I haven't spoke here. First it was COVID, and then I don't know, nobody liked me and never asked me back. There's my self-pity, you know. So I'm here tonight, and it's my privilege. Thanks for asking me. Seems like we have a lot of newcomers. Newcomers are super important to our program. Everybody take a minute after the meeting to shake the hand, and if you can remember their name, call them by name and invite them to keep coming back. In my sobriety, I try to live my program and to follow the instructions that I've been given. And so today I have a home group. My home group is the Saturday night speaker meeting. It happens at 7 o'clock right here if anybody ever is looking for a Saturday night speaker meeting. It's a great group too. So I also do service. I'm the intergroup rep for that meeting. I'm the speaker seeker for that meeting. I have a sponsor that I call on a regular basis. I have been told to take sponsees when I'm able to start taking sponsees, and I have multiple sponsees, and one of them's here to support me tonight. So I'm really grateful for that. Don't ever feel bad about asking to get us a sponsor. You know, I always try to tell my sponsors, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that they help me more than I help them. You know, when I can sit down and I can share my experience and my strength and, you know, just share what they share with me, I get as much or more from when I share with my sponsees, and it's a gift. You know, it's a privilege, so don't ever feel bad if any of you are needing a sponsor right now. You know, get that courage and ask somebody. So I sponsor. I have, I have sponsees and I have a sponsor. What else have I been told to do in my meetings? I go to meetings. I have 4 meetings I go to every month. I was told in the beginning to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and there were no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I did what I was told, and today. I asked my sponsor, you know, well, how many meetings should I be going to? You know, I have 7 years now, and she goes, three to maintain, so 4 to grow. So I go to at least 4 meetings because I want to keep growing. For us to stay stagnant is to drink again. We have to keep growing as an alcoholic. So those are just some of the things that I do in my program today, and God help me that I will stay sober and continue doing those things. I always take just a minute to kind of get my wits about me, so if everybody just takes a minute just for, a moment of silence and just, think about, we, in step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol. And so I just believe that we all have to find that higher power, and we'll just take a moment and concentrate on that, and I'll just get my wits about me so I know what to say. So just a moment of silence. Yeah, so that moment of silence seems long, huh? I've been trying to, so I suck at meditation. That's our 11th step. And so, everybody keeps telling me it's a great thing and I can get a lot out of it. And I'll get on the bandwagon for, a week or so. well, it's been almost 18 days because I started the 1st of November, and it's kind of an oxymoron. You know, I sit down to do my quiet time, and I have this watch that'll give me a 3-minute timer, and I just sit there. And I think this 3 minutes just seems so long, but I'm starting to get comfortable with that silence. And, you know, so I'm going to just keep on doing what I've been told and trying to meditate. So anyways, our disease, our addiction is a serious problem. You know, so I always kind of talk to, it's a threefold disease. We have an obsession of the mind. We have I don't know, it's a disease, an allergy of the body, and a spiritual malady. So we have a 3-part disease which makes up our whole entire being. And I believe that it's also a threefold disease because it's a chronic disease, that meaning in medical terms, chronic disease means that you have it for life. It's progressive. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse if we don't take it. And it'll be eventually, if it's progressive and chronic, it will be fatal if we don't find some means to take care of it. You know, our disease is not curable. I believe that I'm an alcoholic today, and it is by the grace of God that I can stand here before you and say, hi, I'm Nan, I'm an alcoholic, because that was a whole nother issue, coming to grips with that. I believe that it's a serious disease, and we can't take it lightly, and that's one of the reasons I keep speaking. I hate this gig, but I don't say no either in my program, so here I am tonight. So I'm going to start out. So what we're called to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, when we speak, we're called upon to share our experience, strength, and hope, and what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. So, you know, I haven't spoken a lot, but the times that I've spoken in the past, I've spent a long time on the, I don't know if it's that I'm progressing and it's the season of my program, but I used to spend a long time, and, you know, okay, so when I was a child, you know, my father abused me, and then I went on to high school. I'm going to try to stay away from that tonight because it just bores everyone, you know. But what I can tell you is that I know I'm an alcoholic. From the get-go, I started drinking probably when I was about 14, and I remember the first time I drank, and I drank from the get-go. You know, I hadn't drank before, and I drank more than everybody put together at the little get-together that we were at, and I vomited all night. And I continued. I have pictures. I look back in my past, and I would be hungover or vomiting or taken to the hospital because, you know, I was alcohol poisoning. So there is no doubt in my mind that I've been an alcoholic from the get-go, and it never got any better. I can also tell you in my paradigm that I had to quit quitting. So if I started at 14, you can do the math pretty easily, and I got sober at 54. I drank for 40 years. I drank and used. There's other issues that are involved in there too. But I drank and I used for 40 years. And that's probably longer than most of you have been alive. And that's a long time to be a full-fledged alcoholic. You know, I was living in the prison, and I used to joke, but this is the truth. I used to say, you know, it would have been easier to go be thrown into prison. I don't know how I never ended up in prison. You know, I never had a DUI. I never got taken to jail. But I remember thinking, I was in such a addictive prison that I would think to myself, you know, it would be easier if I got taken off to jail, because, you know, I would have to stop drinking. They'd lock me up. I couldn't get alcohol or drugs. And, you know, there's no key for that kind of prison. You know, there was no way out for me. You know, if I got hauled away to jail, I would have been put in jail and then done my sentence for 6 months or whatever it was, and then got out. I was living this hell, day in, day out. Every day I drank for 40 years. And, you know, we try to kind of talk about the extent of our alcoholism, but there were a lot of low points. You know, I would drive drunk, I remember flipping the van with my 2 kids in it. I would call my husband from the bar not knowing where the car was. I would pick up on, whomever, I felt like picking up in the bars. It was all about, I was living in that prison I couldn't get out of. And it just, every day I would wake up and it was like Groundhog Day, it's the same thing over and over. And every day, at the end of the day, I would say, tomorrow I'm not going to drink. And I really meant that. I really, really thought I wasn't going to drink the next day. And every morning I'd wake up and say, okay, I'm not going to drink today. About 10 o'clock, I'd start shaking. I'd start having those cravings that I didn't know what to do about. By about noon, I'd be planning how I could get it. How I could rearrange my day, how I could skip work, how I could flake out on somebody. And then, good 2 o'clock until I passed out at night, I was drinking again. And every morning I'd wake up with that shame and that guilt and that remorse and think, I was going to quit yesterday. I'll quit today. 40 years that went on. And so that's what it was pretty much. That's what it was like. I always take this opportunity when I speak to talk about, I call it my low, and God's greatest gift to me is the lowest of lows that I remember. And at a turning point, I didn't get sober right after that, but I remember this kind of being one of the lowest or the lowest point in my alcoholism. And basically, it was my birthday. And my daughter shares my birthday. She was born to me on my birthday, so we have the same birth date, August 30th. And she said, Mom, I want to give you a knitting class. Let's go to a knitting class for our birthdays. I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool. What time do I have to, be there? Just come to my house. We'll go together. And it was in Santa Ana. And, I don't know if any of you probably half of you are from California or more. But, so she says to me, just come down to my house. Well, it was in Fullerton, we'll drive to Santa Ana. So I head towards my daughter's house, and I'm like, oh, well, I just need a couple drinks, I'll have steadier hands, whatever. We justify why we want to drink. I'm just going to stop and have a couple birthday drinks. Oh, I owe it to myself, it's my birthday, And so I stop at, it was I guess it was BJ's. And so, I get, and I don't know how this happened either. It was probably a little bit of the anti-anxiety and antidepressives and, the pills I'd taken in the morning. It was probably all of those things. I remember thinking, oh, I'm just going to have 2 beers. And I really did only have 2 beers, but it's those triple IPAs. And mixed with a few drugs that I did, I was blasted, but I did make it to my daughter's house, and, oh, I'm ready for the knitting class, I'm so excited, And she's like, Mom, you're drunk. No, I'm not drunk, I only had 2 beers. Yeah, you're drunk. And I'm like, really, I only had 2 beers, and I honestly really was telling the truth there. She didn't know they were triple IPAs or that I had popped a few pills on top of that. But she's like, I'm not going with you. And pretty much I said, fuck you to my daughter. You're being a bitch about this. And I was mad at her. I was mad at her that I was drunk for that thing that she had planned for us. And just, to spite her, just to get back at her, I'll just go back to BJ's and have a few more. So I had a few more of those triple IPAs, and I blacked out. I have no idea how I got, so that was in Fullerton, and I made it to Santa Ana. I was looking for the knitting class, right? And I don't know, it was a blackout, how I got, and if any of you are familiar with Southern California, that's crazy. That is downright, I don't know how I made it. There's freeways between Fullerton and Santa Ana. There's a lot of cars on the freeway in California. And I ended up in Santa Ana, and I drank more. And, it was, bits and pieces come back to me, and I don't try too hard to remember everything. But, I passed out, I couldn't find my car. Everyone was looking for me. It was chaos like it gets. Um, and I always try to take a moment to share this when I speak, because it makes me remember where I was at. And I woke up in the door jam, and I had lost part of my clothes. I don't know what happened because I don't remember. And I was bloody. My knees were bloody. My elbows were bloody. And I really don't know what happened to me, and I was scared. And my husband and my daughter were looking for me. I didn't know where my car was. His car ended up getting towed away with my dog in it because he parked in a no parking zone. It was just a shit show. And, I remember being mad at them, just like, it was my daughter's fault. That's a problem. I told them, my husband finally reconnected. We didn't find my car that night, but we did get his car out of town. My daughter, it was a shit show. Anyways, I was pissed at him when I got in the car, and I said, I want nothing to do with you. Drop me off at my mom and dad's because they were out of town and I could be there alone, probably drink some more. I remember getting down on my knees in such disgust with myself, wiping the blood off my elbows, feeling vomiting probably, just nauseous and sick, getting down on my knees. And I had always been raised to believe in God, and I had always prayed, God help me with this disease. I had asked so many times on my knees to be delivered from my, the cravings, the addiction. And I felt like God didn't answer me, and I got down on my knees and I said to God at that time, I want nothing to do with you, God. And, I still try to find words to describe it, but I think it was, as I look back on it, it was a spiritual experience. And I believe God had me in his grips, or I would have been dead to that point. I believe that God had my hand in his, and he just found it necessary to open up, just if our hands were holding like this, he just opened up his hand and let me let go of it. And I felt like the gates of hell closed behind me. My spirit was gone. All hope was gone. That was the lowest low. That was the greatest gift God ever gave me. It was the gift of desperation. And from that point on, I did keep drinking after that, but it was different. I didn't drink with any hopes of that, I'll quit tomorrow. I knew I'd never quit. I had no hope. There was no answer. And, so I at this point, I'm just going to read a little page. I love my big book. That's another thing I do, is I read my big book every day. So this is it, and there is a solution, and it'll just kind of go into the next thing that I'm going to talk about. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can go without spiritual help. Let us tell you, let's see if I'm on the right page. Yeah. So let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with the doctor. The doctor said, You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent it does in you. Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. And basically, this is saying, the doctor was saying that, there's really not much hope. When you're an alcoholic of this kind, when you're a true alcoholic, and I had, for 40 years drank, I came to that feeling of there was no hope. So that leads me to, I was pretty short on that, huh? Yeah. So that leads me to I have no time schedule, so it's like it's all up to God what I say. So the thing, so that's what it was like. So what happened is, I hit that low. I had no hope. I had nowhere to go. What have I got to lose? Somebody asked me to an AA meeting. Well, what the hell do I have to lose? I might as well go to an AA meeting. So I started to go to AA meetings drunk. I'd have to pick up a couple, drinks before I went, and I'd sit there and I would cry. And I would cry. So here's the dilemma I was having. I didn't want to admit I was an alcoholic. You know, to me, an alcoholic was, the bum in the street, sitting in the gutter, drinking from a brown bag, low life gutter person. I'm not an alcoholic. I have a good job. All these excuses we go through, these lame excuses. So I continued to go to the meetings, and I didn't want to admit it. And that was probably the first step, admitting that I'm an alcoholic and that I'm powerless over my addiction. That was the hardest step for me. And, I just kept going back. And, I saw what people had, and I wanted it. I truly wanted from the bottom of my heart to be sober. And one day I just raised my hand and I said, "Hi, I'm Nan, I'm an alcoholic." And it came out of my mouth, and then, I had to believe it. I believed it before that, but when I professed it, it was a whole nother thing. I started working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a sponsor. I started having 1 day, then 2 days. It wasn't easy. The cravings went on for a year for me. And I would curse people when I would hear them say, "Oh, I had my spiritual experience. I went to AA, and I never had another craving again." I would want to kill those people when they would say that in the meetings, because the frickin' cravings went on for a year for me. And, I can say that I don't have them anymore. Every once in a while I have a fleeting thought, so it does get better if you keep coming back and you stay sober. So what happened to me, I think, is hope. I started seeing a little bit of maybe it worked for you. It worked for you. You've got 30 years sober. Maybe this could work for me. And so I started having that little bit of inkling of hope that maybe it could work for me. And, I just started working the program and doing my steps and got a sponsor. And, life changed for me. I'm sober today by the grace of God. And I have a grateful heart. I struggled a lot with depression. And, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced depression, but I couldn't see anything good in my life. I tried to kill myself twice, and I really did want to just die. But the depression, it takes away any kind of way for you to see anything good. So everything I did in my day, I dreaded. Everything I did in my day was a bummer. It was a horrible place to live too, but I started getting out of that depression and out of that funk, and I could start to be grateful and thankful. So I love my program. I love my big book. Basically, so because of God and my program, I have this beautiful life. So I'm going to take a minute to read another little thing from. So I always bring the big book with me, and I always read from my big book because that kept me sober. This is probably I have two favorite parts in the big book. This is one of my readings. That is my favorite part. I don't know if anybody. So I have a big old rocket drawn on the side of my big book, and it's all highlighted with bright stars all over it. But it says, so many want to stop, but they cannot. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching leveling of our pride, the confession of our shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others. And that's what I saw. And we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life that we had been living. When therefore we were approached by those whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had never dreamed. And so that's what it's like for me now. I used to think and dream when I was in my addiction and those 40 years of being in that hell in prison. I used to dream of things like, maybe if we just don't argue today, maybe if I could just make one day sober, those were the kind of things I aspired to, just one day without, maybe I could just, do a pill and not a drink, or maybe I could do a drink and just not a pill. Those were the dreams of a good day for me. I didn't even have the capacity to dream or hope for a life like I'm living right now. And it is like a fourth dimension of living. I'm happy. I've been given this new pair of glasses where I look out in the crowd and it's not like, a bunch of alcoholics or druggies, it's like my people, it's like my friends, it's the people that keep me sober, you're all great. The newcomers are great, the people that are coming here to support this group here tonight is great. The people that volunteer in the group and give service, they're great. I go out and, I'm pretty active and busy and I do a lot and, I look at it as a privilege. It's a privilege. I can't really explain to you this fourth dimension in which I'm living because, it's awesome. It's not like anything I would have even tried to dream of because my dreams were so small. They were so like, just don't drink, and I just have a great life. I feel free. I feel happy. I have this awesome peace in my heart. The shame and the guilt, I'm not living with that every single day. I smile at people. I sincerely, want to be patient, kind, and tolerant. All the things my program's given to me, I reach my hand out and I really want to know, how are you? It's not like, like put your head down. I have been given a new pair of glasses. So there's a story in the big book, and it's about a new pair of glasses and an attitude change. So that's what life is like for me now. It's awesome. If you keep coming back, if you start picking up the tools of AA, you can have it too. There's a lot of us in these rooms with some time this program works. If it worked for me after 40 years of using, it could work for you too. So I think I shared what it was like, what happened and what it's like for me today. So I just picked a couple of, so I got through that pretty quick. I'm doing pretty good. So I'm going to share on a couple of just, things that have meant a lot to me in my program, and we'll see how long that takes, and we'll watch for the timer, Chris. Thank you for doing that. So one thing that I have found has been a big tool to me, and it's not like a tool that you go, to a meeting or call your sponsor, but it's an inside tool, and it's all about like acceptance. So, the Serenity Prayer says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. Well, it's about that acceptance. I think that that was a really hard thing for me. Even just accepting my own alcoholism was a thing that kept me drunk for 40 years. But acceptance can be applied to a lot of things if you start to think about. So what I try to think about when I'm, having, if I'm irritated or if I start to get, down, I have to look at my part in things, and it's usually when I'm having some kind of expectation of the situation, or I have some kind of a judgment about somebody, because those things can get you in trouble too, is expectations and judgment. So then I just it's like I pull myself out of Nan, and I know it sounds kind of like weird, but, and then I look down at it, and I try to just, without any kind of, we can't trust ourselves. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. So if I can kind of raise above myself and look down at the situation, I can try to understand a little bit about more about what's going on and see what my part is. Because really all I can control is my part. I can't make Cameron, like me. I can't, find acceptance from Billy. I can't do that. That's without, that's not part of what I can do. So I'm going to just read a little blurb from Acceptance, because I like to read from my big book. So it's found on page 417, and it's in that story, Acceptance Was the Answer. And acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact about my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, or thing, or situation as being exactly as the way it's supposed to be in that moment. Nothing, I believe this, nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, which was a big thing for me, until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I can't be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in you or in the world around me. I need to concentrate on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. That pretty much sums it up. I want peace today. I want to be happy. I don't want to live like that anymore. It sucked. So I'm going to do anything I need. I'm going to be willing. I'm going to do anything I need to do. And, it's hard at first, but it gets a lot easier if we practice it. And if I keep, when I pause when I get agitated and I kind of go, I do that out of body experiencing, but you don't have to do that. But, you can, there's different ways, you can do it. But, acceptance has brought to me a peace in my soul. I don't have that horrible, discontent. I'm not discontent with everything. I'm pretty just, I'm happy with the minimal things I have. It's paid off to try to analyze that and to be aware of, your part in the acceptance. That's an awesome story. If you guys haven't read it, it's at the back of the book, and it has some great things in it, a lot more than just that. But I also like that little part where it says, I don't believe anything happens by mistake. God puts before us the people that we need in our life to support us. God puts before us, sometimes it's a relapse, Sometimes it's, everybody has a different path. I think that's pretty beautiful too. I think that's pretty awesome how God works is, that he can use anything. Look at me standing here in front of you. I can't, God can. And he continues to do for me what I can't do for myself. It's an awesome program. Keep on coming back. So how am I doing for time? I'm good still? Okay, so the next thing is, so there's this little thing that I always say, self can't reveal self to self. So we have this kind of, I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but so I can give you a great example because I was a little irritated with Mike because, in my old life I would have called in sick because I really didn't want to come here and speak last night. And so I'm a runner and I would have just said, yeah, I'm like, oh, I have COVID, and I would have called in sick. I would have called in sick to this gig, right? And then I'm thinking about that, I am feeling kind of sick. This is what I mean by self can't reveal self to self. And then Mike calls in and tells me, I'm not coming tonight. And I'm like, but this is what I mean by self can't reveal self to self. You start to get that, I really am feeling kind of sick. Oh, I have a little headache. Oh my God, I think I have a fever. And this is what our sick minds do. It talks us in to, that justification. We're always right. They're to blame. And it's a slippery slope. So when I start to do that, for instance, tonight, I didn't really call another. I think I called Mike back and said, "What? I'm not going either." I sent him a text. I'm not going either, and he goes, "You have to." He sent me back. "You have to go," and I'm like, "Really?" And I go, "Just kidding," but we have to talk to somebody. So that brings us to our fifth step, and I'll just turn around so I say it right. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Our program's not like an individual. It's all about me. I'm it. One little entity. Self can't reveal self to self. Don't trust self. We have this distorted. I heard one time in one of the AA speakers said, it's a given fact that we have 40,000 thoughts that run through our mind in a day. The average person thinks 40,000 thoughts a day. The alcoholic thinks 4,000 thoughts 10,000 times over and over and over again. And that's what we do. That's how we talk ourselves into, distorted facts, blame other people, tell other people, oh, poor pitiful me. We justify the wrongs that we've done. Self can't reveal self to self, so that's why I believe that's why we have that fifth step is that we call our sponsor, if a newcomer wants to have coffee, I sit down and I have coffee and, I talk about, the things that are that person talks to me about it. We do a 12-step and we go out and somebody's in crisis and we share our program with them, this program calls for us to be a group. We can't, we need each other. I said something earlier about God puts people in our lives, to speak to us, and he speaks through us, and he helps us. We are held accountable for when we start to relapse, if we relapse, or if we, start to go back into our what am I trying to say? Our bad habits, our defects of character. When we slip back into those, sometimes we need somebody to help us to clarify. It's super important to reach out. It's super important to be involved in a meeting. So all of those things help to help keep us accountable. And so remember that little thing about our mind can distort things. Our mind can justify. Our minds can tell us that we're okay or one drink is okay. So you need to be aware that self can't reveal self to self. And so that's like one of the little lessons. How am I doing? One more topic? Okay, so I can go on. I'm just going to, so there's a couple other things that I wanted to say, but I'm going to conclude with just a couple of things. So I was telling you, it wasn't until like a few years ago that I realized that there were, I don't know if anybody, okay, so I want to just like do a little experiment. Do you guys know what the principles are that we learn in this program? Raise your hand if you know what the principles are. So not everyone. I think I was a little late bloomer because it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized that there's a principle. So there is a step for every month. So I kind of knew that, so there's 12 steps, there's 12 months, right? But there's also a principle that goes with every one of those steps. And I think that I'm like I said, a late bloomer, and I didn't realize that those principles went kind of with the steps. And I love these principles, and I live these principles, and this is like, a great gift and an awesome transformation that's happened in me is that, I practice these principles in all my affairs, to the best of my ability. I mean, obviously no one can do it perfectly, but these are the principles that I hold dear to my heart today, and God help me to live these principles. So 1 is honesty, 2 is hope, 3 is faith, 4 is courage, 5 is integrity, hence I did not call in sick tonight. 6 is willingness, 7 is humility, 8 is brotherly love, 9 is justice, 10 perseverance, 11 is spiritual awareness, and 12 is service. And I love those, and I really do believe that hopefully God enabling me that I'm living those principles today. Think about those. They're a good thing to meditate on. Look up the definitions. Do some writing on it. So I just wanted to share those because I don't know why I was so late in learning those that the principle went with every one of the meeting or every one of the steps. Okay, and then I'm just going to close with the promises because I told you there are 2 favorite places in my book, in my big book, and some of you may never have heard these, but I love them. And so just to make me happy tonight, I'm going to read them. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new happiness and a new freedom. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. Thank you. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. I'm Nan. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for letting me share.